So this week, our Darren Mann Encounter team are checking out a few historical landmarks in Nelson Mandela Bay, all within just a few hundred meters of each other, and all in an absolute state of rack and ruin and disrepair. You cannot believe, it's almost impossible to believe what the authorities have allowed these historic buildings to become. Take a look. We've got the old post office complex, we've got the old SA Reserve Bank building, and let's start with what was one of the most beautiful railway stations in South Africa back in the day. Take a look and see what it's become.
The old PE train station building has existed at its present location on the corner of Strand and Jetty Streets since 1875, when the first railway line was constructed to Uitenhage, about 40 kilometres away. Extensive additions were completed by 1893, but with litter-strewn streets that include some magnificent potholes and neighbouring buildings that have been abandoned to vagrants and the elements, it is a pale shadow of its former glory. 2024 sees it drab, dilapidated, and with evidence of inner city decay all round. The inside remains functional, barely, but facilities like the once magnificent on-site restaurant and night spot are just a distant memory. Now there are flea market-style small business operations on site and just a fraction of the rail traffic there once was. The 50-metre-high Campanile is a memorial to the arrival of the 1820 settlers from England. Opened in 1923, it takes 204 steps to reach the top.
Here we are, right outside the world-famous landmark that is the Campanile, and I'm really pleased to say this has been looked after a lot better than the other sites that we're taking a look at. It's right outside what used to be one of the most beautiful train stations in South Africa, but isn't anymore. And it's right at the entrance to the Port Elizabeth Harbour and a block away from City Hall, which is over there.
Still well maintained and open to the public, it currently also houses an office or two. The surrounding area has been upgraded to include other elements of South Africa's rich and diverse history.
This is why the Campanile's here, to commemorate the landing here of the British settlers in the year 1820.
It should serve as an example to other sites. I reckon most people would be pretty proud to bring visitors to come check this out, if it weren't for the dirty downtown location. Our city fathers and mothers do not seem overly concerned by what's going on here, and pedestrians are forced to pick their way through the filth and the muck. These are pictures you won't find in the tourism brochures or on their websites. Can do better, must do better. When will we do better? Let's go check out some other sites.
So behind me you see what is the old post office building, or rather the old post office complex. It's made up of 4 different buildings, all of them just absolutely neglected, abandoned. It's a disgrace. They're historical sites. Over here, if you're able to just look to the left, this grand old lady that you see, look at the broken windows, look at how spectacular it could have been, look how spectacular it must have been in the days of pomp and ceremony and glory. Those bells haven't rung in decades. But what makes it even more tragic for me is that it's right alongside City Hall, where 120 city councillors, the best and the brightest that our city have to offer, that's where they gather. And just meters from them, this has been allowed to happen. Come on, we can do better. No parking, so we won't. I don't think they had any problems like this when this building was erected. I think it was the year 1900, over 100 years ago. National monument, supposedly.
Close by, to be fair, a well-looked-after memorial to those who went searching for the fabled Prester John.
So what we're going to see now is what is probably the worst of the 4 buildings that make up the old post office complex here in what was Port Elizabeth, now Gqeberha. This was the Barkin Street police station, and legend has it that former Prime Minister John Vorster even spent some time in the cells, which are underground. Come take a look. Right, so what we've got here is probably of the buildings we've seen, the one that's in the best condition. It's the old SA Reserve Bank building. It was vacated, I think, in 2016, 2017. My fear is, if we came and made a video like this in 3 years' time, this building here is going to look as bad, if not worse, as the old post office complex and railway station that we've seen. I hope I'm wrong.
And then, just as we were leaving and thought we'd seen it all, we came across this gem. The old Port Elizabeth Harbour Board building. Potentially the most beautiful of them all, potentially the most abused of them all. Literally just a stone's throw away. Like, share and subscribe if you like this video, please. There's a new one on the way soon.